Hi guys, James here from 5-Star Rating 22. Alright, here's the third part to the Harlequin, Dark Eldar Harlequin painting series. Hope you guys enjoy this. I've been having a lot of fun painting this. The model's all finished now, so there'll be one more part to this. That'll be a shorter part, and that'll be coming up soon. So, alright, let's get stuck in. First thing I'm starting with is Bloody Red from Vallejo Game Color, and I'm adding the first highlight to the gems here. And I'm doing pretty much half of the gem, and it's the left and bottom section of the gem, as you can see there. And on the smaller ones, it's pretty much just kind of the left hand side on the real small ones. It's kind of hard to make it all perfect on the really there's some really tiny ones on this model, but you can see there it's kind of like, just like I said, the left and bottom half part of the gem, and that was in Bloody Red. Now I'm going to start doing the metallic highlights, and I've got gunmetal, chainmail silver, and silver, all from Vallejo Game Color. And I'm going to start with the gunmetal highlight, and that's going to be to all the dark colors. I'm using my 00 Winsor & Newton watercolor sable brush, and I'm doing the dark metal highlights, and it's just like on the edges, raised areas, and any surfaces that protrude farther than other ones, leaving the recesses in the real dark metal look. And then on the shoulder pads, I did like a line outline to the shoulder pads to help make those pop a little bit as well. And then on the shaft of the sword, I also concentrated on the edges of that and any protruding parts. Now, if the part that you're highlighting is thinner than the thickness of the highlight that I was doing, I usually pretty much use the tip of the brush as my judger for how thick it is. Just do the whole thing, like on the fingers and on these latches like this. I pretty much did kind of the whole thing, and then just left the inner the parts that connect them in the dark silver, and then the very deeper parts in it as well. So you can kind of see there's the first highlights done up on the model, and that was to the mask, to all the straps, the shaft of the sword, and shoulder pads is pretty much it. Oh, and then the gloves, of course. Now I'm taking chainmail silver. I'm going to start the first highlight onto the sword, and I'm concentrating again along the edges and any raised areas of the sword. And then I also did some highlighting onto around the gem piece that was on the sword there. There is kind of a raised area, so just again the top of that. And remember, again, like usual, use the side of your brush when possible. It'll help keep it straighter. And then I also did the very tip of the sword. I added a nice highlight, trying to keep it nice and smooth on the very tip. Since it's sticking straight up, I wanted the very tip of the sword to be really shiny, so I added a little bit extra there. Alright, so here we go. Next I'm going to take this is my Insane Detail brush from Army Painter, and I'm going to take the chainmail silver, since I already had it out on my wet palette. I'm going to do the second and final highlight to the darker metal areas on the mask and on the some of the casing on the pistol. The Shrieking pistol, I think it's called. I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing that wrong. The shaft of the sword again, and this time making it thinner, making sure to leave some of the previous gunmetal highlight visible, and just concentrating on a lot of the raised areas and the knuckle and joints of the gloves, and any higher parts, keeping it nice and thin though as well. And then just on the outer edges of the connecting buttons as well. Now I'm doing my highlighting a little different than normal. I highlighted this model quite a bit more than usual, being as it's a Harlequin. I wanted it to be a little bit more poppy. And then I also did the belt. Now I'm taking and doing my final metal highlight with the silver, again using my Army Painter Insane Detail brush, and this is just going to be I'm only using silver on the sword, concentrating a lot on the very edge, or the blade part of the sword, and then again on the tip of the sword. I got the very upmost tip part of it to make that pop, make that stand out, look very shiny across the gaming table. It would look so. And again, and then running a line right along the blade of the sword as well to make it nice and shiny, as you can kind of see there. And then on the tip, you can see there that is quite a bit shinier than the rest of the sword. So. And that'll help bring that out and make it look like it, since it's sticking straight in there. Next I'm taking Blazing Orange. This is the only like paint that isn't a foundation paint or a wash that I use from GW, mainly because I don't have my orange in Vallejo right now. So I just mix that right on top of the tub with thinner and make that to a nice, almost a milk consistency is what I use. And again, using my Insane Detail brush from Army Painter, I'm going to add the second highlight to all the gems, again concentrating in the left lower part of the gem. making sure not to cover up all of the bloody red previous highlight that I added to those. So you're leaving a little bit of it, but again, it's in the same area. Just trying to add the orange inside of the previous bloody red highlight. So now you could do it either way. You could do the bottom right half, do the highlights like this, or the lower left half. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you. I just do the bottom left half. So you can see there's a couple demonstrations of it. And again, on the smaller ones, you just gotta kind of do your best. Now I'm taking here is that Warlord Purple from Vallejo Game Color, and I'm adding the first highlights to the purple pinstriped articles of clothing, like the boot and the upper left half of the coat. So concentrating on the raised areas and any areas that I think are protruding enough to add a highlight to, and then any areas where I also on this model I added them to, if you're looking straight at it, I added some extra highlights to like make it pop a little bit more since it's a Harlequin. And then since I had the Warlord Purple out, I wanted to highlight the very top of the hair a little bit more, just to help add some to it. And then working on the jacket, as you can see here on the upper left edge of the part that comes around the neck there. And originally I was going to highlight the black parts and purple parts separate, but I did some research and looked at some articles of clothing that were colored pinstripes that had color to it, and it seems like you can't really differentiate. It kind of blends together on the edge or the highlight parts of it if you look at it. So I didn't worry about leaving the black showing on the edges and highlighting with gray. Instead, I just did all the edges in this purple. It actually looks really well, and you still get the pinstripe effect. So just going right over the black on the highlight parts. Just making sure not to go too crazy with it to where it doesn't look pinstriped anymore. So I just was careful with it. Alright, so there's with just the Warlord Purple highlight added, as you can see there's a little demonstration on the boot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same thing, or take the same pool of Warlord Purple and add about half of Ghost Gray to it. I used Ghost Gray because it's got a little bit of a blue hue to it, and so I used that instead of regular white. And then what I'm doing here is using my Insane Detail brush again. I'm going to add an even smaller highlight to the parts that I already highlighted on this, concentrating, making sure not to cover up the whole Warlord Purple previous highlight, and doing it thinner on the line highlights so that there's still some of the previous highlights showing through. So being extra careful with this. Just getting the edge parts and raised areas, pretty much the exact same parts that I had just highlighted with the Warlord Purple, just doing it inside of those and thinner where applicable. Like on some of the edges and stuff like that, you're not really going to be able to do it on the inside, so those edges just kind of get the whole get just this brightened or this real light purple look. I know it kind of looks, it's kind of pinkish hue to it, but they're so minute, such a small amount on it that it still looks purple. Generally from a ways away from the normal viewing distance. So, and there you go. So that's what the final highlight added to the purple parts of the purple pinstriped articles of clothing. As you can see there, makes it stand out real nice. And now I'm gonna take Warlord Purple and Black, both from Vallejo Game Color, and I'm going to start highlighting the ribbon parts and the cloth parts on this model that I had in the real dark black. So on this one I'm doing the first highlights a little bit thicker, running again along the edges and any raised areas, leaving the darker crevices in the real dark purple that was stained with the wash that we did. So I'm running it right along the edges and any parts that kind of protrude out, so, and doing it a little bit thicker than normal on my highlights. Since this is such a dark article ribbon, I did it thicker than normal, the width of the line highlights. So taking my time, as you can see there. Alright, so you see along the edges there, and remember, you can pause it at any time if you want to get a better look at it. I kind of went through it fast, but again I'm going to add Ghost Gray into this and just into the middle part of the mix, and then pull some out once I had it to about the hue I wanted it. Not as light as the highlight on the other articles of clothing, but still lighter than the regular ribbon. And now again I'm taking my Insane Detail brush from Army Painter and adding a real thin line highlight to the previous highlights that I did, concentrating on the edges and raised areas of the articles of clothing. Making sure that it's thinner, of course leaving some of the previous highlight, and not forgetting to get the ribbon part that wrapped around the leg, the top of the leg there as well. And on this one, it was a lot easier to stay within inside the previous highlight since I did the highlight before this with a thicker width than normal, so it made it a little bit simpler. Again, using the side of the brush where applicable, it makes it a lot easier to stay consistent, and it makes the line a lot straighter. So as you can see there, that's with the final highlight done onto the ribbon parts. It helps bring that out and make it match and blend in with the rest of the highlights that were done on this miniature thus far. So now I'm going to take Moon Yellow and Dead White, both from Vallejo Game Color, and I'm going to mix it about 2 parts Dead White to 1 part Moon Yellow and add the final highlight to the gems here. And what I'm doing is just adding a small dot into the upper right corner. This helps simulate a light source hitting it and giving it a reflection. Now I mix in my Moon Yellow with the white just to give it a little bit of a yellow hue. It tends to really help with the red gems, I believe. To make it blend in more instead of it just being pure white. So, and again, just doing a thin little small dot in the upper right hand corner opposite of the previous highlights. So if you did in the bottom right, you would do the final one in the upper left. Giving you a couple demos there. Remember, again, you can pause it at any time to get a better look at the art that I'm working on. So alright, now I'm taking Devlin Mud Wash from Games Workshop's wash line, and I'm adding it to the gold rivets on the hairpiece, and then also in the mask I'm going to give it some under shading, concentrating in the eye socket below the nose, the mouth crease, and then the around the whole edge of the mask, and then there's a jaw and a sunken in jaw part on the left, very left part of the face that I add that to. Now I'm going to take Elfic Flesh, which was the main color that the mask, left half part of the mask had been painted in. Oh, I want to show you real quick. That was that Moon Yellow with Dead White compared next to the Elfic Flesh. It actually looks very similar. So now taking my Winsor Newton 00, I'm going to take the Elfic Flesh and bring back some of the color to this part of the mask here. And now when I said under shading with the wash, what I'm going to do is let the thin down consistency of this Elfic Flesh. I thinned it out like usual, 1:1 paint to thinner, and I'm going to go over the washed areas real thin, so it's so the transparency lets some of that shading shine through, or be able to be visible through. So as you can see there, it helps shade the model nicely and give it a nice undercoat. Since I'm trying to get like a porcelain mask type look to it, that's why I did under shading on this. Now I added just more white to the thing, and I'm going to give the mask its actual first highlight, concentrating on the raised areas like the V shape above the eye there, along the edge parts, and then by the cheekbone and chin and tip of the nose as well. Now I'm just taking some of the color out from my previous mix and adding more white to it, so it's now pretty light color, and then I'm going to actually add some art coat, some gloss varnish into this mix to give it a semi-gloss look. And then now this will be my final highlight. Now I added the gloss to help give this a porcelain mask look, because if you look at a lot of them, it seems like you only really see like the glossiness or the porcelain kind of look to it on the edges of the mask. That's where it seemed to pop out to me, so I wanted to do it this way to help give it that porcelain mask thing. I know it's hard to see the gloss edging in the camera here, but in real life it looked rather convincing. It looked real porcelain, which was nice. So now, since I had the art coat out, I'm going to take the gloss varnish and add this to all the gems. Not a whole bunch of it, you know, you don't have to be too sparing, but I added it to all the gems to give it a nice gloss look. And you can see there's the final thing on the gems. So that's it for this one, guys. Stay tuned for the next part. Hope this has been helpful. Hope that you guys enjoyed. So thanks again for everything, and thanks for watching. You guys take care and keep gaming. Later.